We're off.
Hello, everybody. Here we are again. Some familiar faces in the audience. You should really know better by now, but you keep coming back, so that's good. Thank you to everybody else that's come along. I'm Jeremy. I'm the CEO of Marketing Delivery. I've been presenting at AM Live for more years than I care to remember, but hopefully we're still relevant. There's enough of you here to suggest we are. I'm joined on stage today, delighted to be joined on stage by some guests who are going to share the load with me today. So we've got Keith Jackman, who's the Head of Marketing and CRM for the Sandown Mercedes Group, and Charlotte Murray, who's our Commercial Director. So I'm just going to get them to do a very quick 30-second intro on what's the name, where they come from, the whole blind date thing, and tell us a bit about yourself. So, Keith.
Ladies first. Go on.
Thank you. So those of you that I don't know, my name's Charlotte Murray. I've been with Marketing Delivery about 12 months, but for my sins, I've been in automotive since the late 90s. I cut my marketing teeth with CD Bramall, for those that can remember CD Bramall before the Pendragon acquisition. Since then, I've been in agency side and back into retailer side, and now back in marketing agency side. So that's me, Keith.
Good afternoon. So I started before the 90s, as you can probably tell.
It's not a competition.
Thank you very much. I started in parts, actually, a parts advisor. So I think I've done just about every role in the motor trade, so got quite a good understanding. But for the last 16 years with Mercedes-Benz, two different groups, currently Sandown. So
Cool.
Thank you for having me along.
Excellent. So Keith, as well as being Head of Marketing and CRM for the Mercedes Group, also runs two of the sites as well. So all of the stuff us marketers talk about in our lovely theoretical world, he has to figure out if it works in the real world. So thankfully, most of it does, which is why he's here today to talk about some of it with us. Now, obviously, Mercedes-Benz were one of the first manufacturers to go over to the agency model, and that's thrown up some challenges. Lots of assumptions that we've had to challenge and look at how we navigate our way through, and lots of opportunities that the dealer groups have been able to tap into. And we're going to share some of that with you today. So we're going to share some assumptions. We're going to look at some of the data and some of the numbers behind it. Keith's going to share his experience, and then Charlotte's going to share some of the actions that we've taken, and hopefully there's some takeaways there for you to go away with. Presenter notes just tell me everything I've just said, which is really helpful, so I'll skip on to the next one. So the assumptions that we're going to look at are that around agency model, the dealerships are going to be less competitive because they can't discount. There are going to be fewer quality part exchanges because they're going to be selling less new cars. And there's going to be less service opportunity because of that, fewer car sales going through. So there's some of the assumptions we're going to break down. So let's start exploring then. No price differences or discounts means agents have less of a competitive offering. Is that true or not? Well, some of the data that we've looked at from consumer surveys that we've carried out, from Trustpilot, and from some comments made by Gary Savage to Car Dealer magazine, sorry, AM, earlier in the year, suggests that there are some opportunities out there. So 64% of consumers conduct most of the research online, not a surprise, only visiting a showroom when they are ready to buy. 93% of consumers read reviews before making a purchase, according to Trustpilot. Again, no great surprises on that. 50% of consumers say a quick response influences their decision. And 98% of new Mercedes-Benz customers in 2023 live within 20 minutes of the dealership versus 76% before agency came in. That all suggests if you delight your customers, quick, accurate, timely responses, paired with a fantastic showroom experience, that there are plenty of opportunities there still, even with agency. The NFDA Consumer Attitude Survey said only 32% said cost was the most important factor when buying their next car. So what's the reality? Keith, what are we seeing in the dealership?
Exactly what you just said, of course, Jeremy. We looked early on and thought, well, how do we differentiate ourselves away from every other Mercedes-Benz retailer? Because if you can get it from your local postcode, then why would you come to us? And so for us, it was about speed of response, which has always been key for us, but also how to delight those customers when they come in. We all talk customer satisfaction. It's an old thing. But we still know people don't always get it right. So for us, everything has to be spot on, and we want to get those people outside of the 20-mile radius. You know, speak to their colleagues, friends, family, and actually we had a great experience at a Sandown retailer. I'll drive that bit extra. And nothing new, we know that, but now it's gloves off. So.
I think that's going to be quite a key theme today, isn't it? In that not everything that we're talking about here is rocket science. Not all of it is new news. Some of this is really good digital and physical retailing. And if your data is accurate and your customer touch points are good and you can segment that data and keep in touch with people, actually some of the stuff that I've been saying here for the last 10 years, it's all equally as relevant as before. What it gives you is a bedrock to flip your business around when you need to, when circumstances dictate it. Social media presence for handovers to demonstrate that good experience, sharing good news stories. That's all the stuff that, again, we've been talking about at AM Live for a number of years now, that you bring that all together in an agency model. When your model of retailing changes, it's still about the right contact points, good customer service, and putting the customer at the centre of what you do.
Well said.
So, Charlotte, what are the learnings?
Yeah. So I guess you've just nicked some of my points, to be fair, Jeremy. But yeah, I think what I'm going to talk about applies to agency, but it also applies to your standard franchise retailing model. But in this particular instance, obviously now price is out of the picture, so it is all about that customer delight, customer experience, and also, as Keith said, location does factor in. The first stat I think you showed, Jeremy, was around 63% of it, customers doing the research online before they go to a dealership. The advantage you have with agency now is that always-on advertising piece. You're not grappling around with your quarterly campaigns and enhancing your tactical offers. You're on, and you can be on at all times in that space while people are doing that research. I think moving on from that, just talking about the review piece and the Trustpilot stats, surface those reviews wherever you can. So use them in your social media advertising. If you've got a carousel, put a good review in at the end of your carousel. Bring them into your other areas of your CRM. You thank you for your inquiry message. Surface a review there and tell people how great you are. So make sure you really, really leverage whichever review platform that you are using. We've seen also through our data that inquiry to point of order now is as low as 5 days, so it's a really quick turnaround from inquiry to order. So again, that speed and quality of response that Jeremy talked about, that's absolutely key. So use automation if you can, where possible, and just really stand out from the crowd. Think about, I want to give people nuggets today to go, actually, yeah, I've not thought about that. So just think about what extra you can do to delight those people, and at which point in the journey you can, as I say, surface those reviews and just remind people how good you are.
So, the next assumption then, if less new cars are being sold, there are fewer good quality used cars coming in as part exchange. So where do we get those part exchanges from? Where do we get those used cars for our franchise from if we're not going to get them through part exchanges for new cars? Well, looking at Sandown's data, during July to September, 55% of the Mercedes vehicles due a service with them weren't bought from Sandown. They've come in from outside, from other dealers, used cars bought elsewhere, new cars bought elsewhere. They are a source of used cars. So if you're not getting as many part exchanges because you're not selling as many new cars, you've still got a massive park of potential used cars to buy from within your own customer base, people who are having their cars serviced with you. So if they're being serviced with you, hopefully they're being looked after, hopefully they're decent quality. You've got an opportunity to engage with a conversation with those customers about the cars on the service reminders, when you're talking to them about appointment confirmations or when they're in the workshop. Agency doesn't cover used cars for Mercedes. So retailers do still have the freedom to retail on those non-franchise used cars that maybe previously would have gone straight to auction because we're not interested in selling BMWs and Audis as used cars because we're a Mercedes dealer. Now you can put them onto a separate part of your business. Keith, you have the avocado business for used cars. Lots of our clients are now setting up a kind of non-franchise used car element to what they do, where those part exchanges can be retailed rather than sent to auction. Customers can shop around for a part exchange valuation. So we'll talk with Keith in a second about, is part exchange the new battleground for price with customers when buying a new car? We'll come on to that in a sec. We want your car messages. I think of all the emails we sent out, and we send probably 500,000 messages a month, we want your car has been a message that's gone on to so many CRM communications and independent campaigns to bring these cars in, especially if you know that you've got that massive potential supply of used cars in your service database from people who haven't bought a car from you yet already. So the reality then, Keith, what are we seeing? Is that part exchange valuation the new battleground, or is that really not something to worry about?
You'd think it was, wouldn't you? I mean, the first topic we talked about, there's nothing new there. It's just the basics we've been talking about for every year since the car was first invented. The difference now could be what you pay for that part exchange.
Yeah.
But it isn't. You know, we're not governed by how much we pay. We can pay what we like. Arguably, you could give a little bit more and get more used cars, but we'd be in a sorry position in 30 days, 60 days, when we've got those cars we pay too much for.
Yep.
You know, can't send them to auction and make a loss, can't put them on our forecourt because we don't make a profit.
Yep.
So actually what we've seen, and we're only, 10 months in now, that's not the case. Anything that's overpriced, you know, it all gets looked at, and we have to cover it from our team of used car evaluators, and it is what it's meant to be. So that hasn't actually happened. Certainly not in our group, and I don't actually believe it's happened anywhere else.
So it's all very well saying you could offer more for the part exchange to get the new car deal. If that just means you've got an overpriced used car, it's not helping anyone.
Certainly forecourt.
Yeah, cool. Charlotte, what have we learned?
Okay. I think, well, you guys will all have your own buying and stocking policies, okay? So you'll have to work within the framework of that. But certainly the We Want Your Car piece that Jeremy referred to just there, we've seen fantastic success going out with those text messages, email messages. You can be really targeted, look at your database and think, actually, what stock do I want from my service database? And just target those people. You don't have to send it to everybody. Introduce We Want Your Car valuations, test drive in those service appointment communications. So when you send in your service confirmation, offer the customer a valuation while they're in, offer them a test drive of the next new model when they're in. So there's lots of ways that you can leverage that after-sales CRM just to convert people into that buying mode. One of the real success stories we've got is, you can see on the screen at the moment, this is our Stock Alert product, which traditionally it's used in sales, okay? So we match a customer inquiry with a dealer's database of stock to keep those customers warm in that initial sales process. But actually, we've seen some success using this in service. So we will send to a customer that's due a service appointment, we will send them younger, newer versions of the current vehicle that they've got, just to try and pique their interest and see if we can convert them into that buying mode. So they're just a few suggestions that we've seen have been really successful in terms of just converting the people, as I say, and targeting exactly what you're after from that stock database that you've already got.
So we know, don't we, that a lot of people get their car serviced before they sell it. They want to sell it with a full service history, think they'll get more for it when they sell it. So if those people are into you for service, let's see if we can buy it off them. Rather than them sell it themselves, let's see if we can get a sale and a purchase from that. If we know the car's been serviced, everything's good with it, why wouldn't good source of used cars? Keith, I think your guys do actively contact people in for service, don't they, to try and value the car?
Yeah, we do. And again, it's one of those things been around for years. You don't speak to service customers. The problem is when you've got 60, 70 customers in a day, how do you speak to all of those? You can't. So we have quite a process run by another company we won't talk about, Jeremy, which actually pulls out all those customers that have only had a car a year old, their Motability, their lease, they can't change. So what you end up with actually is 20 out of those 60, should we say, which actually are good customer prospects. You can have a proper conversation.
Yep. And again, this is some of the stuff we've spoken about in the past, outside of agency, just to try and retain customers, retain vehicles, retain quality stock, and keep customers in our businesses. So the next assumption, less new cars sold means less customers on the database to retain for service and repair. We did a webinar with AM 3 weeks ago, I think it was, just talking around some of this subject, and one of the points made on that webinar was dealer ramps have been full of tier one nearly new vehicles for years. Lead times have been getting longer and longer. Anybody wanting to service an older vehicle at a franchise dealer will probably think, I've got to wait too long for it, or it's going to be more expensive. Now, going forward, if less new cars are going to be on the ramps because less are being sold, there's an opportunity there to bring some of those older vehicles in, to have proper contact plans, proper product plans, really, with those vehicles to bring them in. And actually, those older vehicles are more profitable than the newer vehicles anyway. So if we can get more of those older vehicles in, retain them in the business, and encourage those customers to come back in, then it's a win all round. One of the projects we've been running with Keith at Sandown as a pilot is looking at how we reactivate some lapsed customers, looking at safety recall information. So if we know somebody hasn't been in for 18 months, we can look them up. We know the vehicle's due a recall. Can we invite them back in? First, we will go off and update their MOT date, make sure we've got all that data correct, so any contact is relevant anyway. But if we know the vehicle's got an outstanding recall, with a link to the SMMT and what that recall is and how they can look it up themselves to show that we're not just making things up, marketers, we wouldn't do such a thing. We can go out to those people and brought them in. And Keith's dealerships have seen an average invoice value of over £300 from those that have come in. And the case study was published last week with some more detail on that. So it's about looking for those touch points and being a bit clever about how you bring those customers back in, not just relying on, oh, it's in warranty, it's in a service plan, we're going to see it, we're going to fill our ramps with that anyway. A little bit of work needs to go on, but if the data's right and the segmentation process and the customer contact process is in place, that's something that's really easy to do. And we've actually seen a 23% increase in those older segments coming back into the dealerships with Sandown as a result of putting all those programs together, getting the data right, looking at the recall data. Keith, what's your point of view on all of this?
Well, I think the first one is probably those recalls. You know, I'm happy to say that when somebody put it to me, we've got a contact centre that is very active, phones all those customers. We get that data from Mercedes-Benz. So when they said, oh, we've got this new tool, it won't work, Jeremy, don't worry. So we've done all that, been there, and I'm happy, more than happy to say I was completely wrong. And I
told you should trust me.
I know. Who would have thought? But you've seen the stats. You published them. It's incredible. So much so we're now going with the next batch. So that's really important. And it's not just getting them in for the warranty work, of course. While they're there, we're upselling and not just upselling. Is that you allowed to say upselling now? But the point is, we're trying to make them a customer of ours again. So it's an opportunity getting back into the retailer they may not have visited for years. They can see we're actually really nice people, and they're older cars, so we offer discounted service for older vehicles, discounted parts, and all the bits to go with them. So it's really, again, making them feel loved. Actually, I'd rather go here than maybe an independent. If
you can get that franchise dealer experience, lovely cup of coffee at a reasonable price, and you haven't got to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for it. And by the way, we're going to check your recalls, make sure everything's up to date with your car as well. Then those customers are liking that experience and are coming back into your dealerships. Absolutely. Charlotte.
Yeah, so I think you guys have said a lot of what I was going to say anyway. But, value maintenance package is a prime example of how you can look to attract those older vehicles back into the business. The vehicle park is ageing. We've had new car supply issues, so we know that there's an opportunity there. Jeremy showed a stat that we've seen that 20% growth in retention of it was 5+ vehicles at 5+ years. So think about, could you introduce a value maintenance package? Have a look at your customer journey. Are there different touch points for owners of older vehicles? Are there bigger jobs that need doing that you could perhaps incentivise them to come back to you as an authorised repairer, even if they have already gone off elsewhere for their MOT perhaps? So just keep looking for those touch points. And again, I think safety recall, I mean, that in itself
recalls are now advisories on MOTs.
That's
right. So when you have your car MOTs, if there is an outstanding recall, it will be there as an advisory on your MOT. So again, that's a good tool to get people back into the franchise dealership. Cool. So our next assumption to explore: more EVs sold means there are fewer after-sales opportunities. True or false? Health checks are more important than ever. So EV servicing requirements are less frequent than an ICE car. Tyres, wheels, brakes, suspension still need regular safety inspection. State of the roads at the moment, probably more than just as much as any car that's out there. I think my cars have been in for more wheel work, alignment work, tyre replacement in the last 2 years than in the previous 10 combined. 53% of consumers agree that the transition to EV will be a confusing process. Where do they go to help with that confusion? The franchise dealer. More EV visits to workshops due to recalls, warranty and software updates. So for the retailers in the room, how many of you are seeing EVs in for warranties and recalls and software updates on a really regular basis? don't admit to it, but we have an EV, and it's in far more often than the petrol cars that we own. In fact, when we were in at NADA in January in Dallas, and Cox Automotive presented a bit about EVs, where that point was made that retailers are seeing EVs in, on average, more per year at the moment than ICE cars because of the recalls, the warranties, the software updates. Keith, what are you seeing in EV land?
Yeah, it's very easy to be frightened by it. You know, it's a very small service. There's obviously nothing very much to check. You know, it takes you back to being a Land Rover technician many years ago, where the big services were 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
And when they suddenly became an hour and a half, we all panicked and went, we're going to have no work.
Yeah.
You have to adapt and change, and EV's no different. What can we offer now that we can't offer already? Not very much, really, but it's just getting those, as you say, getting those. Someone spelt licence wrong, by the way. Getting those cars back in, making sure they're looked after, and you know, we talked earlier about loving the customers up. And it's just reminded them that you can't just take an EV to anywhere to get it serviced. You know, those technicians have gone through specialist service, skills, special equipment. The customer may not know that. You know, educate them, tell them, and reassure them that we can look after them.
Excellent. Cool. Charlotte, what have we learned?
So, for those of you that have seen Jeremy present before, he always talks about data, but I am going to steal his crown now. The biggest thing for me, for you guys to take away, I guess, is if you've got EV in your brand mix, have a look at your data. Can you identify within your customer vehicle database what is an EV and what is an ICE? Because unless you can do that, you can't start delivering an EV customer journey. So that will be the number one piece. Just have a look at what you've got in your database. I had a look at what we receive in our database from our 500 retailers that we work with, and very few have an indicator that says this is an EV. So that makes it very difficult for us to design an EV customer journey. So that would be my number one. Please have a look at that when you go away. And if you haven't got a process, see if you can find a process. Model mapping's okay, but it's not always robust if you've not got franchise data within your platform. I think as well, opportunities to bring owners back in. So new EV owners are going to be, you know, it's new technology, software, completely different way of driving. So bring those people back in, invite them back in for a second handover, or perhaps run, you know, a drop-in day with an EV specialist in your business. I know recently, I'm not EV, I am ICE, admittedly, but I got a new car at the beginning of the year. I had some problems with it, and I learned more from the technician when I took my car back in about the software than I did at the handover. This technician told me so much that I did not know about the car, which was fantastic. So think about introducing those kind of touch points. And again, like Jeremy says, just, you know, software checks, safety recalls, all those different opportunities to bring people back. But you can only do it if you know who they are, so it does come back to your data. And
software updates over the air are all very well and good. When some of them require them to connect your car to your home Wi-Fi or to your phone and push buttons, and that's quite a leap of faith for the home user / EV, now newly qualified EV mechanic. As an owner of an EV, you have to push some buttons on an app and trust that you're doing it in the right order at the right time, and that software is going to be deployed correctly to your car. What if it doesn't work? Will my car charge overnight if I get this wrong? We've got a software update on our EV that's been sitting on the app telling me it's due for about 3 months. We haven't done it yet. We haven't plucked up the courage. We need to make sure it's fully charged, and I've got a potential dealer visit to that franchise within the next week, so that if it goes wrong, I can take it in and say, can you plug that in and fix it, please? So why not, if as a dealer you will know that major software update is out there, why not contact your customers and say, if you want to do it at the dealership with one of us here to make sure you push the buttons in the right order, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Give us a shout, come on in, we'll put the nice coffee on for you, and we'll help you through the process. So, our summary, couple of slides left, and then for any Q&A, you can either fire them at us, come and see us afterwards, or come and see us over on the stand. But the reality of the agency / EV world is really, if you delight your customers, digitally and physically, they'll come back to you. They'll buy cars from you, and they'll keep them serviced with you. If you find alternative stock sources, over half the vehicles due a service in your workshop probably weren't bought from you. So that's a really good source of cars. And if you can find new ways of retailing non-franchise cars through your business, then you can change your used car model. Yes, it's different, but you can still maintain volume and you can still maintain profitability. And encourage older vehicles back in. You will have more room on your ramps for older vehicles in the coming years as less new cars go out and more of those are EVs with extended service intervals. So you have got a really good opportunity, space on your ramps, to bring some of those older vehicles back in by working your data, checking the customer you think owns the car still has it. We've done some work recently where one dealer group that I won't mention, 44% of the vehicles on their database weren't owned by the customer they thought had it. The average is about 27%.
27.7.
There you go. So get your data clean. Make sure you're talking to the people that own the right vehicle. Make sure you know of any safety recalls that are due for any of those vehicles, and open your ramps up to older vehicles. So in summary, be quick, accurate, timely. Make sure your marketing and CRM functions are ready for now and the future that awaits. We may have mentioned data accuracy a few times. It's key to everything. Review your customer journey touch points, and don't just have the one customer journey for all your customers. Different customers, different vehicles require different customer journeys. Implement those robust contact strategies, maximizing customer retention. We've seen improvements in customer retention by pivoting some of the things we've done with Sandown. Use the technology that's available to automate quick and personalized communications. Thank you very much. Anybody wants to fire any questions at us now, we're more than happy to take them. If you want to come and see us at the end and not put your hand up in front of everybody, that's fine. Or we're over on stand B40 over there if you want to come and see us. So anybody want to shout anything at us now? No, in that case, thank you for coming to see us.
Thank you.